Hey guys, welcome back to the Fun Bikes YouTube channel. I'm Finn and today I'm going to be showing you the build process for our new RS-R 250. So you can go from looking like this to this. Let's get straight into it. So for this build you will need a certain few tools. You do get a tool bag with the bike, but I highly recommend if you have your own tools, use them. So the first tool you're going to need is going to be a 4mm Allen key. You'll need a 5mm Allen key, a 6mm Allen key. You'll need an 8mm socket, a 14mm socket, a 13mm spanner, a 14mm spanner, a 15mm spanner, a 17mm spanner, a 19mm spanner, a ratchet, a long extension bar, a shorter extension bar, a knife, a pair of wire cutters. You'll also need a 19mm socket, a hammer, and finally a little screwdriver. So now I've taught you through all of the tools you'll need for this assembly. We can now get this thing out of the box, out the crate and ready to be built. Let's get this thing out of the crate. So now we have got the bike out of the box and the cage. There'll be a few parts that would have come out of the box with it. I'm now going to walk you through them. First of all, this box has your battery in it. You would have received your front number board. You would have received your handguards, your front mudguard and your nice big front wheel. And finally, you'll receive your part box, which I'll explain in detail what is in here in just one moment. So starting off, we've got your foot pegs, your bar pad and your bar pad cover. You'll receive your toolkit. You'll receive your top clamps for your handlebars, your bottom clamps for your handlebars. You'll receive your 4 bolts with 4 nuts and 4 washers for your handlebars. You'll receive your 2 rear shock bolts, your front axle with the 2 spacers on it, your gear shifter / lever. You'll receive your fuel hose, your key holder and a few more bolts in there. And finally, you'll receive your manual, which explains how to maintain and keep your bike in perfect condition. So moving on to the assembly of this bike, we're going to be doing the handlebars. So first of all, you're going to want to grab your handlebars and rest them just here for now. And then you're going to want to grab a top clamp, a bottom clamp, one of these bolts for now. But for this you're going to need a 6mm Allen key and a 13mm spanner. So what you're going to want to do, you're going to want to grab your clamp and bolt first before your tools. You're going to want to put the bottom clamp underneath like so, and then your top one here. You're going to put your bolt through the hole, like so. And then the nut and washer will go just underneath here. This can just be finger tight for now. Then you want to grab your second bolt. Again, unscrew it, slide it through till it goes through the other end. And then again, bolt goes under, finger tight. Now once this one's on, we can then grab the second set of clamps and another bolt. So again, same as the other side, you'll want to put a big one at the bottom, little one at the top. Now with this side, you're going to want to put the bolt in the bottom hole for now, and we're going to leave the top one. So through the bottom, line it up. It should slide straight through. And again, bolt and washer on the bottom. Now, like I said, we're going to leave this top bolt because now you're going to want to open your little bag. You're going to want to grab your key barrel holder and your final bolt. So you're going to want to put the bolt through, but you don't want to put the screw or the bolt on, the nut on, sorry, just yet. And this, go this way up. And this hole will go onto the bolt, and now you can put the nuts and the washer on the bottom. This will hold the key barrel holder in position for now, like so. And here on the handlebars, if you have a look here, you can see there will be some numbers, and this is all about adjustment of how high you want your handlebars, but you want the handlebars like this. So this means the handlebars are perfectly level each side. So now we can tighten them. So now, once you've aligned your handlebars how you would like them, you can now grab your 6mm Allen key and your 13mm. And now we can tighten the bolts as tight as you can to make sure your handlebars are nice and tight. So you don't want to over tighten these yet, you just want to get them all tight enough so the handlebars don't move. And then once they're all quite tight, we'll go around again and make sure they're really tight. But when we're tightening this bolt here, obviously this one's holding the key barrel holder. While you're tightening it, you want to try and make sure you keep it upright so it's in a perfect position for the bolt for the number board to sit. So now once they're all quite tight, we're going to go around again and give them a proper tighten. Now once you're happy these are all tight, you can give it a little test, give it a push down. As you can see, they haven't moved, so they should look like this when you are done. So moving on to the next part of the assembly, you're going to be doing the rear shock absorber. Now for this, you're going to want to grab your 2 rear shock bolts, a 15 and a 17mm spanner. You're also going to want a 14mm socket with an extension bar on a ratchet. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to grab your little rear shock bolt. As you can see on the bolt, this end's got a longer flat side and a shorter one. And on here, on the actual shock itself, you'll see there's a little lip. You want to make sure the long flat side will sit on that lip like this. So what you want to do is you want to grab this metal bit here and line it up the rear shock like so, and get your flat side and push that straight through. And as you can see, flat side is on the lip. Now you can put your nut on the other side. Then you can grab your 14mm socket. Then you need to go to the other side and you'll need to tighten this, ensuring that this flat bit stays at the bottom. It can be a bit awkward, but it will go. Make sure this is as tight as possible. And with that, that's the first bolt assembled. And as you can see, it might be a bit of an angle, but it's all right. As long as this is still in contact, we'll be all right. So now we can grab our second bolt, your longer one. So you take the bolt off. Now this is a bit of a harder part because this has got to line up with this hole here. And for this, what I like to do is I like to put my foot under the rear wheel carefully, and it makes it a bit easier to control and line it up, as you can see. And now just slide that through. So once you've lined up your bolt, you've slid it in, you can now grab your nut, and this can go on the other side, just here. So now you want to grab your 15 and your 17mm spanners. You want to put the 17 on the nut side and your 15 on the bolt side. Now you want to tighten this as tight as you can. This can be a bit awkward because there's not much room, but as long as it's tight, it'll be all right. There we go. Once that's all tight, that is your rear shock all assembled and ready to move on. So moving on to the next part of the assembly, we're going to be doing the front mudguard. For this, obviously you want to grab your mudguard, then you want to grab your little bag, and you're going to want to grab 3 of these little 8mm bolts. There should be 4 in the bag. You can take them out, and you're also going to want your ratchet with a little extension with an 8mm socket on it. So now we can move to the front of the bike here, dangle this over the handlebars for now, as that will be a step for later. So as you can see on the mudguard here, you'll want to use this hole and then the 2 back ones, which will line up with 3 holes in it. So now you can grab your first of the 8mm bolts, put it in the hole. Now the tough part is going to be trying to line up the bolt in the hole. This can be quite awkward if you don't find the hole, but what I'd recommend is just wiggling it until we find it. There we go. There's one in. Now you want to do the same for the back 2. If you want these finger tight as well, because then we'll use the ratchet after to make them tight. And the final one should go in the easiest. Now once all three of these bolts are just loose in for now, you can grab your ratchet. You're going to want to make sure these are tight, but not overly tight, as they can snap if you're not careful. And with that, you can see the mudguard is nice and secure, so we can now move on to the next part of the assembly. So moving on, we're now going to be doing the front number board. Before that, you can see all these wires are a bit messy, so let's sort them out. So the first thing you want to do, you want to grab your clutch lever. And you want to make sure this is behind all the wires, so it's nice and tidy. So pull that through, behind that one, and just rest it there for now. Now with this one, the key barrel, you want to grab this plug, push down on this bit of plastic, pull that out, like so. Now, on it you can see, there it is, there's two little bits of plastic that poke out here, and these will line up with a little bit of metal here. So what you want to do is slide the wire through, line them up, and once they're lined up you can push them down and it will click in. So now you can grab the wire you pulled out and plug that back in, like so. We've got another loose wire here which will plug into this plug here, which will already come not attached, like so. So now you can just wiggle them about, making bits harder. If you have a zip tie, you can zip tie these wires together, and that keeps them from spreading, and they do look a bit nicer that way. But I'm just going to leave it for now, but as you can see, it's a lot tidier. Grab the number board, which comes in this bubble wrap, as shown earlier. Just want to rip it open. You also want to grab your ratchet with the extension and the 8mm again, and the final 8mm bolt. So you can grab your number board, and on the bottom here there's two little prongs which will slide into these gaps here. So you want to slide them in like so. Make sure all the wires are clear, and as you can see in this gap here there's an 8mm which you can put that rest in there for now, and you can grab your ratchet and you can give this a tighten. There we go. You don't want to do this too tight because this bolt is a bit soft, so if you do it too tight it can snap, but as long as it's not wobbly, that is all assembled. So now we can move on to the front wheel. So moving on to the front, we're obviously going to do our front wheel and our front brake. So starting off, you're going to want to pull out this little black tab, and sometimes you can see here the gap's fine here, but sometimes the gap can be too close together. And if that is the case, you can grab a flathead screwdriver, just give it a bit more room. So what you want to do is there's these two holes here. These will slide onto these two prongs here. You want to do this before putting the wheel on, like so. So they just slide on, and when they're fully on, you'll hear them click. There we go. As you can see, they're on nice and securely. So now we'll put that back. And now we can move on to the front wheel. And for this, you're going to want to grab a 19 and a 17mm spanner and your front axle. So you're going to want to take off the nut on the end. So now you can grab your spacers and put your big one on this side and your small one on this side. So what you want to do is you want to line up your brake disc with the brake pads. You can roll it in like so. And then you can lift the wheel up to line up the spacers, and then you want to slide the axle through. Sometimes you just need to give it a bit of a whack till it lines up, and then you can line up this side, and again give it a whack like so. And you can grab your nut, screw it on this side, and once this is on, you can now grab the 17 and 19. Your 19 will be this side and your 17 will be on the left. So now you want to tighten these to make sure they're as tight as possible. There we are. Once that's on, that is your front brake and front wheel all installed. So moving on to the next part of the assembly, we're going to be doing our foot pegs. So you want to grab your part bag with your foot pegs in it. As you can see, you'll receive both of your foot pegs. You'll also receive a little parts bag that you'll need for this part of the assembly. So inside this part bag, you'll receive 2 pins, 2 springs, 4 washers, and 2 split pins. So the first thing you're going to want to do is identify which foot peg goes on which side. So you do this by just testing, and as you can see, that's not the right one, so that'll be for the other side. So check this one. As you can see, that'll be the right one, so we're going to be using that one. So after you've identified if you have the right foot peg or not, you're going to need to identify if you have the right spring. And the way you know this is by grabbing both, and you can see here, this one has the poke on the right and the hook on the left, whereas this one has the poke on the left and the hook on the right. So you're going to, for the right side, you're going to want the poke on the right, so you can remember that. Right side, right poke. So what you're going to want to do, you're also going to want to grab a little screwdriver, about the same thickness and length as this one, and a hammer. So you're going to want to put your spring like this on there, and this will hook in this little gap up here, like so. Now this bit's the hard bit. So what you want to do is you want to put the screwdriver through this gap, but you want to push up on the foot peg, and then once you're pushed up, you want to push down to get it into the spring. So you want to push up, like so, and then push down, like so. And as you can see, that's gone through the foot peg and the spring. So now you want to grab one of the pins and one of the washers, and the washer will go in between the pin and the foot peg, like so. Now once that's on, you want to line up the pin to go through the actual foot peg itself now, like so. And once that's slightly in like so, you can now push down again with your left hand, and then you can tap this through. And once that's gone through the spring, you can take your screwdriver out. Now you can grab your second washer and put that on the other side and try and get it onto there. Now finally, you want to align the foot peg with the back hole, and again, tap it through. Once that's through, you can now grab your split pin and put it through. And you have to bend these edges round, and once you've bent them, that foot peg is now on, so we can now move to the other side. So moving on to the left side, you want to grab your foot peg and your other spring. You want to put the spring in here, and your foot peg like so, like that. Now you can grab your screwdriver and again lift up and then down until your screwdriver into the spring, and then you can push it all the way through, like so. So now you want to grab your pin and a washer. You want to put your pin in and then squish the washer, push it down so it gets in nicely. Now you can try and line up the pin through the foot peg, like so. And once that's in a little bit, we can now grab our hammer and we can push down on the screwdriver and gently tap this through. Now we can grab our second washer, and this will sit in between the metal and the foot peg. Once you think it's in the right spot, you can hammer the pin through. And if it doesn't go through, you can look down the bottom and you can tell where to move it to. You can use your screwdriver to line it up. So now you can put that all the way through. Now you want to grab your split pin and you want to put this through the end and then fold it back on itself to ensure the footrest is nice and secure. And with that, your foot pegs are now installed and we can move on to the next part of the assembly process. So now moving on to the next part of the assembly, we're going to be doing the gear shifter selector. So you're going to want to grab a 5mm Allen key, obviously your gear selector. So you're going to have to remove this 5mm bolt. Then you're going to want to place your gear selector on here. Now this is all about personal preference. You can have it higher or lower depending on what you prefer, but I'm just going to put it here for now just as I'm not riding it. And you're going to want to put your 5mm back in here, but you want to make sure this stays flush with the metal part inside, like so. And even while you're tightening it, you just want to hold it still so it can't move. Now you know it's tight because it's not wiggling. Obviously it's wiggling, but it's not rattling, and that's what we want. So now that's on, we can keep moving on to the next part of the assembly. So moving on to the next part of the assembly, we're going to be doing the handguards. And for this, you're going to want to grab this bag with all your parts for the handguards. You're going to want to grab a 10mm spanner and a 5mm Allen key. You'll also want a knife. The first step is to get your knife, carefully cut this bag open. Inside, you'll have your 2 handguards in here. You'll have the 2 bits that attach from your handlebars to your handguards. You'll have your bolts to assemble the handguards, and you'll have 2 stickers to put on if you want them on. So starting off, we're going to unwrap your 2 handguards in the plastic bags. There's one, there's the one. And as you can see here, there's a little indent here when it's facing this way, which means this is for the right side, and it should be the opposite on this side, which means this will be the left side. You will also need a 4mm Allen key. I did forget to mention this, but you will need one. Right, so you will need to figure out which of these brackets will go to which side of these. And as you can see here, it bends to the left according to the gap here, which means this will be the one for the right one. And this hole will line up with this middle one. So what you want to do is you want to line it up and push it. It should click on like so. Now you can grab your 4mm Allen key bolt, and you want to just lightly screw that in just so it holds the bolt in place. There we are. Now you can grab your 4mm Allen key, and you just want to screw this all the way through. Now once that's all the way through, you can now grab your 10mm nut, put it on the other side. Now you can grab your 10mm spanner, and you just want to make sure this is nice and tight, like so. Now with that, we can grab one of our stickers and appear it. You can put the sticker right about here. You don't have to put the stickers on, but I think it's just a nice little touch. Now that one's done, we can now move on to the left side, which again, same process, clicking it on. If it doesn't go on by clicking, you can slide it on like that. So now you can grab your last bolt and your last nut, and again, just in enough so it holds the bolt, 4mm Allen key, and all the way through. Now once your bolt is all the way through, again, you can put your 10mm nut on this side, give us a nice tighten. Finally, you can put the sticker on, same as the other side, roughly about here. With them now put together, we can now move on to putting them on the handlebars on your bike. We're now going to be doing the installation of the handguards here. So for this, you'll need the handguard we just built up. You'll also need a 4mm Allen key, a 5mm Allen key. The first step you're going to want to do, you're going to want to grab your 4mm Allen key and undo these 2 bolts here holding the clamps together. So this part, you're only going to need this bit for now. So you're going to want to move this bit of plastic along to access this gap here. What you're going to want to do is put this on an angle like this, and you want to pull this quite hard like that until it's on like that. It can be quite difficult, but it just makes more space on the handlebar for the installation of your clutch. So now you've got this stood into position, you can now grab handguard, the 2 bolts, and your 4mm Allen key again. So what you want to do is you want to put one of the bolts through the hole for now, and just screw this in a few threads. You can use your Allen key to help you a bit, like so. You want to put your bottom one in, just a few threads, not tight, just so it's loose but on. So now we can move on to attaching the clutch lever. And for this you'll need your 5mm Allen key. You'll want to undo this 5mm bolt on the bottom here. So you want to take this out fully. Now once you've got this bolt out, you can put that to the side as well for now. You want to move this bit of plastic all the way up to where we just put the hand guard. Now you want to open this, put it on top, and this will just clip on underneath, like so. So then you can grab your 5mm bolt, screw this in, again just by a few threads. Now you can adjust what angle you want your levers in your handguard to be at. Once you're happy, you want to tighten your clutch up first. So then that's that tight. You now want to grab your 4mm Allen key. Now you can tighten up these 2 bolts. Now once these 2 bolts are done, you can now see these are both nice and secure, and we can now move on to this side. So now you can grab the back of your clamp. You want to slide this under here and push, like so. And once that's on, we can now grab your handguard and the 2 bolts, slide this underneath. You want to then put the bolts in, just a few threads again, just to keep it from falling off. Now once you've got this on loosely, you can now again grab our ratchet with the 8mm socket and wiggle this back into position. Now with this, we can now adjust our levers to where we want them to be. And now, once you're happy, you can then tighten this up, and the bottom one. Now, you can adjust and tighten your handguard, making sure they line up with the other side. And once that's tight, that is now both of your handguards installed and all attached. So moving them back onto the front of the bike, we're now going to sort out this front brake wire, hose, whatever you want to call it. So for this, you'll see this little bit of plastic here. There will be a little crosshead screwdriver bolt, or screw, sorry. You want to unscrew this. Once you've took this off, will just pop off. So now, what you want to do, you want to get your brake line, and it will sit in this gap here. And on this bit of plastic, you can see there's a bit of a lip here. I will hook on behind. You can just push it on. You want to make sure you keep your finger or 2 fingers on this plastic, because it will pop off. So once you've got it all in position, you can now take your screw, screw it back in the hole. So once that's tight, that should be nice and secure, meaning your brake line is now nice and secure. So moving on to the next part, we're going to be getting your battery ready for the assembly. So in this box, as you open it, you'll have some instructions. You'll receive your lead acid and your battery itself, with your bolts and a little pin to help with this part. Please make sure you do read the instructions, as these are acid batteries, so they can cause harm if not done correctly. So moving on, we're going to open this little bag here. And now we're going to want to open this up. You can use this little pin just to make a little hole. Now rip this open. You want to remove this black cap, but you want to make sure you don't throw this away, as this will be needed later. So once you've took this little black cap off, you can then peel this off. Like so. Now you want to grab your lead acid, line it up on top. You want to push down so that all clicks down. And as you can see that all the liquid is slowly going down. And for example, like this one here, if it doesn't start going down, I'm going to grab the little pin and just poke a hole, and it will start draining. but that's only if it doesn't move down. So once you can see all the liquid is drained, you want to carefully remove this off the top of the battery. So now you want to grab your little black top. You'll also need to grab a hammer. You don't need it to be this big, but it has. So you want to put this in just so it sticks in position, and you want to carefully and gently, you want to hit it so this goes all the way down. As you can see, there is no lippage, so this is now ready to be put into your bike. So moving on to the next part of the assembly, we're going to be fitting the battery. So for this, you're going to want to grab your battery we just assembled earlier, your 2 bolts and the 2 little nuts, I guess. You'll also need a crosshead screwdriver and your 5mm Allen key. Starting off, you're going to want to grab your 5mm Allen key. You're going to want to come under here, under the rear mudguard, and you'll see just here, there's a 5mm bolt. So you're going to want to unscrew this. And once that's gone out, what you want to do, you're going to put your fingers under the seat here and just give it a quick, and it should just pop off nice and easily. So now, in here, it looks messy, but it's not as bad as you think. Get your crosshead screwdriver and take this bolt out. Screw, even, not bolt. Like so. So now, that comes off nice and easily. You want to make sure these wires aren't inside here. You want them to just sit there for now. So now, we grab our battery and our 2 little nuts. You want to just put them in now, like so, on both sides. Now you want to grab it by the 2 metal prongs so these don't fall out. I'm going to lift this, slide it in with the 2 metal bits facing towards the front of the bike, like so. Now you can lower this. Now with this plastic bit, if you see this little bit here, where my finger is, this goes down and under, like so, and that clips it in place. So now we can grab the screw we took out here, and that can go back in. So now you can grab 2 little screws. And first of all, we're going to make sure you want the key to be off. You don't want to get any shocks. So you can grab your negative, which will be on the left side. Pull the little plastic tab down. Put the screw through into there. You can grab your screwdriver, tighten this, like so. And now once that's tight, we can now push this over. It will sit nicely on top. So now we can do the same with the positive. So pull down a little bit of plastic, put the screw through, and tighten. So once that's tight, again, put the bit of rubber on top. So now, what you want to do is you want to make sure none of these wires are poking over these bits of plastic here, but it could get caught in the seat. So if you just tuck them down, like so, just out of the way, you can then grab your seat. So on the seat, under here, there's this little lip, that's going to hook under this bit of metal here. So what you want to do, is you want to put it down here, and slide or push it down the middle, like that. So once this is nice and on, you can see this isn't moving, we can then grab our 5mm bolt, and again our 5mm Allen key. We're now going to move back down. You want to make sure you're pushing this bit down. This just means you can get the bolt in a lot easier. You want the bolt in, like so. And we'll make sure this is nice and tight. Now once that's tight, we can now move back up. So once we have tightened the seat back up with the battery in, you can give it a little test. You just want to turn the key. You can hear the battery is working, so you can turn the key off, and we can now move on with the bike. So moving on to one of the final parts of your assembly, you're going to have your bar pad and your bar pad cover. So you're going to want to undo these, like so. And I'll put this on here. You want to make sure the key is out of the way so you can hang it over the front. So you can line this up, like so. Give it a bit of a whack on, makes it a bit easier to fit the cover. So now, this depends on if you want it facing this way or that way. It really doesn't matter, it's completely your choice. So now, just want to attach this, like so. Nice and easily, just 3 bits of Velcro, like so. And with that, your bar pad is now on, you're looking fresher than ever. And for the cherry on the cake, you can now attach your breather pipe to your fuel cap. And with that, the assembly of your bike is now completed. But we're not done just yet, as there is a few more things we need to do before you can ride this beast. So now we took all the sticker protections off, you can see how beautiful this bike really is. But before you do take this thing out, we've got one more final thing to do, and that'll be the full nut and bolt check. So starting on the back for your full nut and bolt check, I'm going to check the 4 bolts to your rear disc here. I'm going to check here, this one here. I'm going to check all these bolts down here. I'm going to check all the bolts on the engine. If you can check these here. I want to check these 2 bolts here. And then on the forks here, I want to check this one here and these 2 here. So you want to check the front axle and these 3 bolts on here. Moving on to the other side, you're going to want to check these bolts here on this side, these bolts here, and your kickstand. You want to check these bolts here, all around the engine again. You want to check these bolts here. Some of them can be a bit tricky, but preferably do check them. You want to check these 2 bolts here. Now moving on to the front wheel, these 2 bolts here, this one on the back, and this side as well with these 3. You'll also want to check these 2 bolts here, and again, the 3 fork bolts. So guys, this has been the assembly guide for the RS-R 250. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments and I'll reply to them as soon as I can. Make sure you get your protective gear, it can be found in our description or link in our bio. I've been Finn, and I'll see you in the next one.